Okay, so we are live streaming. I don't think anybody's there just yet, so we're okay. I just had to shut it up, otherwise you'd be hearing me. Can you still hear me? Got it. Perfect. And your screen sharing is working okay?
Yeah, and I've started recording, so that's all going.
Perfect. Okay, and then, so what I'll do is, I don't know if you'd like me to tweet it out right now, or I can get you started.
Yeah, you can.
And, you know, the main thing is we want to have the recording, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's going now. And I mean, the first, 40 minutes, I should go through the material here, and then we'll just have Q&A. So
yeah. And the thing is, it's been people have been really busy and active, so I'll tweet it out while you're going. I'll close my camera. I'll turn my camera, my mic off, so that I can sort of field things if anything's coming in, and and Maddie will do that, I'm sure.
Will you use how are we communicating, via the chat?
Yeah, well, I'll use the chat to communicate with you. I won't interrupt you while you're presenting. After you're done presenting and you want to take Q&A, if any come in, I'll just keep an eye on what's coming in, and I'll communicate with Maddie through the other.
Yeah, you can, when we're in the Q&A phase, then you can use chat or just talk to me and take it that
exactly
way. All good.
Okay, so and
you tell me when I should start.
I will. Just bear with me 1 second. Now, have you seen the other ones where I've done the land acknowledgement at the beginning? Are you comfortable with that?
Like, just do whatever.
Okay. All right, good stuff. So let me just move it over a wee bit so I can see you. Just make sure I can see it okay, because I have to read it. Okay. All right, so I'm really pleased to be here. Again, we've been going strong. I keep saying since Sunday the 27th. It's now April the 2nd. We like to call it World Autism Acceptance or Autistic Acceptance Day. And really pleased to be here with one of our new partners. I'm Karen Tim, who was the founder of the Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators, and Jorn is the founder of, well, I feel like there's so many things that you're founder of. You just have your hand in everything, Jorn, and it's been a pleasure to meet you and get to know about the Autistic Collaboration Trust, and your partnership is so valuable, and you just cease to amaze me every time I think that you've got one idea really just so amazing, and just you've got something else coming down the pipe constantly, which is so really, I don't like to use the word inspiring because it almost feels demeaning because we're told that, right? But I feel like within the community, you're really quite a true role model for many of us to just continue to persist and keep utilizing the gifts that we have, and to share our brilliance. So I thank you so much for that. Before we get officially started, what I do is I've been starting our events with a land acknowledgement from an advocacy perspective. Because it is a 9 event, I'd like to start with that, and then I will hand it over to you if that's all right. So we would like to acknowledge that many Indigenous nations from across Turtle Island and across the world have longstanding relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories and lands upon which our advocacy and community leadership occur. We would like to acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of these nations, as the struggle for Indigenous rights is deeply connected to all human rights work. When we recognize the systemic and social connections within our work, it is also essential that we refuse to historicize these struggles, because doing so ignores the impact of colonial oppression which persists today. In our advocacy efforts, we are committed to disrupting and dismantling the systems of oppression that have dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their lands and denied their rights to self-determination. This work is essential to human rights work across the world. And like I said, it is just such a real pleasure and honor to be here with you. We've had such an amazing week, and I think this is a great way to, this is actually our final live stream and YouTube, and Zoom call. And then we'll be doing a couple of Twitter spaces later as part of the Intersectional Infinity Summit. But your work and moving us into the future, I thought this was such a wonderful way to really end, because it's not the end, it's the beginning, really, in so many ways. And so it's bittersweet because obviously, we're enjoying the week, but just really looking forward to hearing you. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to sit back and relax and enjoy and just absorb. And thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Karen, for this wonderful introduction. And really, what I'm talking about here is not about me. It's about autistic people, autistic collaborations, and the things that we are doing together. And there's more and more of that happening. So the Autistic Collaboration website, was set up to catalyze collaborations, and that's what's happening. So it's not one humongous group of people. No, we want to keep it small. So it's people consolidating around very specific topics and themes, and then those people supporting each other and making the impossible possible. I think that's maybe the overarching theme. So I'm here in Aotearoa, and many thanks for your introduction, because colonization is well alive here as well. And this is exactly what we are fighting against over here as well. I'd like to make this session as interactive as possible, but in order to set the scene, I'd just like to, introduce a few concepts. So this will take a little while, so bear with me. I hope I'll get through this in less than 40 minutes, and then I'm really keen to engage with all the wonderful autistic people that are turning up to this fantastic event that Karen is coordinating here. So let's get started. So I've been saying for many years that autistic people are the cultural immune system of human societies, and I think that takes some explanation. So how do we understand this? So I've been involved with I've been sort of involved in, 20 years ago, I co-founded a small company, and this has become a worker-owned cooperative. The operating model that we use, we call that the neurodiventure model. So, and the formation of worker-owned cooperatives, that offers an alternative life path, especially for autistic and otherwise neurodivergent people, because it counteracts commodification and it limits the systemic exploitation of neurodivergent people, which is in full swing. So a neurodiventure is conceived as an inclusive, non-hierarchical organization that's operated by neurodivergent people and that provides a safe and nurturing environment for divergent thinking, creativity, exploration, and collaborative niche construction. So you'll notice the word competition or market doesn't apply there. We're not in a marketplace. In Te Reo Māori, the neurodiventure concept translates to what you could call neurodivergent whanau, or extended family. And these indigenous languages like Te Reo Māori have important words for concepts that have been suppressed by colonialism. So here's some more definitions. So a whanau is an extended family group. It's a familiar term of address to a number of people. It's the primary economic unit of traditional Māori society. In the modern context, the term is sometimes used to include friends who may not have any kinship ties to other members. So you can see how this relates to any kind of collaborative venture that delivers valuable services. It's an economic unit. It provides livelihoods. Whanau is much more than the Western notion of a family. It's a deep connection. It's a bond that you're born into that no one can take away from you. So it's not this fickle concept of atomized families that are fully exposed to the corrosive system that we're part of at the moment. And there are also specific words for autistic ways of being. So in Mari, autistic ways of being are called takiwatanga. Takiwatanga literally means in their own space and time. Most autists are not born into healthy autistic families, so we have to co-create our whanau in our own space and time. In many indigenous cultures, children with unique qualities are recognized and given adult mentors with similarly unique qualities, and they grow up to fulfill unique roles in their local community, connected to others with unique knowledge and insights, perhaps even in other communities. And if we are embedded in what I call an ecology of care, we can thrive and share the pain and the joy of life. Without the support of an autistic whanau, autistic life feels like life in continuous emergency mode. And I think this is something that all autistic people are familiar with. Autists depend on assistance from others in ways that differ from the cultural norm. And unfortunately, that is pathologized in hypernormative societies. However, the many ways in which non-autistic people depend on others is considered normal. And it's these endless chains of trauma that are being caused that must be broken. In mainstream society, people don't understand how autistic people support each other, love each other, and care for each other in ways that go far beyond the culturally impaired neonormative imagination. Instead of medication to numb the dehumanizing living conditions usually referred to as industrialized civilization, people need caring and supportive relationships. They need activities that they genuinely enjoy and purposeful work that they genuinely believe in. And the saying is, the saying that everyone knows is, it takes a village to raise a child. And the autistic translation of the saying is, for an autistic person, it takes an autistic whanau to feel loved and alive. In this society, people end up getting killed by the bullshit of social competition and toxic relationships. The way of life is something entirely different. It's an ecology of care. And in their hearts, people know it, especially hypersensitive and hypercompassionate autistic people. So I mentioned the ecologies of care. Those who are the most sensitive and traumatized have not lost the ability to extend trust. They constitute an enormously rich and diverse repository of insights and hold many of the keys needed for co-creating ecologies of care. So there's nothing wrong with autistic people, but there's a lot of wrong with a society that systematically discriminates against all forms of diversity, and especially autistic ways of being that involve non-participation in competitive social games. So we need positive experiences every day, every week, every month, every year, and continuously over 10 years and more, because that's what it takes to recover from abuse and to gain solid ground on top of which we can build further. Now let's talk about neurodiversity and autistic traits in particular. So the benefits of these autistic traits like hypersensitivity, hyperfocus, perseverance, lack of interest in social status, and inability to maintain hidden agendas, they mostly do not materialize at an individual level, but the benefits materialize at the level of the local social environment that an autistic person is embedded in. So hypersensitivity, for example, allows us to perceive details and to recognize patterns that escape non-autistic people, but at the cost of behavior that often clashes with established cultural norms. Hyperfocus and perseverance allows us to develop levels of understanding and domain-specific skills that surpass the abilities of non-autistic people often. but at the cost of disregarding other skills that are regarded as basic life skills by the local culture. Lack of interest in social status and lack of inclination or ability even to self-promote greatly reduces social distractions and further amplifies the ability to hyper-focus and persevere, but often at the cost of being perceived as non-cooperative, problematic, and disrespectful of so-called authorities. The inability to maintain hidden agendas enables autistic people to develop and maintain trusted relationships and very effective long-term collaborations, and that's what we're doing. But this ability is crippled in psychologically unsafe environments. That makes autistic people dangerous from the perspective of anyone who is seeking to maintain or enhance their social status, resulting in the systematic sidelining of autistic people in competitive social environments. So within the bigger picture of cultural evolution, autistic traits have obvious mid and long-term benefits to society, but these benefits are associated with short-term costs for social status-seeking individuals within the local social context. And this is really important to understand the marginalization of autistic people. You cannot understand that marginalization if you don't understand these fundamentals. And there are further aspects, where does this all come from? I think regardless of whether autistic traits have a genetic basis or are the result of early learning experiences made by autistic children in their local environment, that means we don't play the right way. We are absorbed in our own world. We ignore social status. We show little or no interest in participation in competitive games and so forth. The hypersensitivity and pattern recognition of autistic people, they shape the specific experiences and situations that trigger neurochemical rewards in ways that differ significantly from cultural norms. So many autistic people, therefore, avoid copying the behaviors of non-autistic people. Life teaches us that culturally expected behavior also often leads to sensory overload, and furthermore, that cultural practices often contain spurious complexity that have nothing to do with the stated goal of the various practices, and such that a little independent exploration or experimentation usually reveals simpler, faster, or less energy-intensive ways of achieving comparable results. Now, so this creative approach that we tend to use is in stark contrast to non-autistic people who receive significant neurochemical rewards from conforming to cultural expectations, such that they're often incapable of recognizing spurious cultural complexity when they encounter it in so-called best practices. And I think in the education space, many of you will be familiar with these best practices. This is the way things are done around here, right? And we need to look at the bigger picture, evolutionary picture. So available archaeological and anthropological evidence points towards highly egalitarian social norms within human scale, i.e. small scale, pre-civilized societies. In such small scale societies, social norms against wielding power over others will have allowed the unique talents and domain-specific knowledge of autistic people to be recognized as valuable contributions. In a psychologically safe environment at that human scale, so say 150 people or less, the inability to maintain hidden agendas becomes a genuine strength that creates a collaborative advantage for the entire group. In fact, autistic honesty will also have made autistic people prime candidates for maintaining trusted collaborative relationships with other groups. In pre-civilized societies, adversarial encounters with other groups would have been the only situations where the non-autistic human capability to deceive others would have been advantageous for the group. But such situations and costly conflict could easily be minimized by migrating and carving out a new niche in a different ecosystem. So for the longest stretch of human evolution, yeah, we didn't have these competitive societies. And it's actually this unique human ability to adapt to new contexts, powered by neurodivergent creativity and the development of new tools, that's enabled humans to minimize conflicts and to establish a presence in virtually all ecosystems on the planet. And this level of adaptability is the signature trait, really, of the human species. So now let's look at where we are now. These so-called civilized societies are the result of increased human population densities and increased levels of intergroup conflicts. And as the number of small-scale human groups increased and as the local resources became scarce, the ability and inclination to outcompete other groups became valuable from an evolutionary perspective. But this capability came at a cost. It's an appreciation of the ability to deceive other groups. So we have to remember that the people who are successful in maintaining hidden agendas to outcompete other groups, they're exactly the same people who are capable of maintaining hidden agendas within their own social group. So whilst cultural norms can successfully minimize the immediate or short-term collective cost that comes with granting social powers to competitive and deceptive individuals in the context of intergroup conflict, over the longer term, hierarchical social structures dampen feedback loops, and they effectively induce a collective learning disability, replacing cultural adaptability with cultural inertia. And I think we are seeing this now all over the planet, and that's a very scary development. Social power gradients became a permanent feature once the frequency of external conflicts increased to the point that such conflicts were considered a normal part of the human experience. So it's easy to see that autistic people are continuously at risk of being marginalized within civilized societies, in which collaboration mainly refers to negotiating social status and power gradients and competing against each other using culturally defined rules, the so-called market, right? The creative capacity of autistic people continues to be relevant in these so-called civilizations, but the resulting capabilities and tools currently tend to be exploited for the purpose of maintaining and strengthening social power grading. So this is the co-opting of the neurodiversity movement, and we need to push back against this. Thriving autistic communities that act as local centers of autistic culture, they can only come into existence if we can imagine new kinds of collaborations between autistic Whanau and the rest of society. And if we allow designs to emerge organically from the collective intelligence that exists amongst intersectionally marginalized people at ground level. The competitive social environments that characterize our modern civilization, they systematically disable autistic people. However, whilst autistic people are usually not interested in social status and are therefore considered socially naive, they're very astute observers. And so we learn to decode competitive social motivations, not intuitively, but intellectually, via careful analysis of social interactions and behavioral patterns that we observe over longer periods of time. And as children, often we are traumatized by experiences with culturally well-adjusted parents, peers, and the education system. And depending on the extent to which we are prevented from developing our unique interests and are forced to comply with social expectations, our trauma may lead us into extreme levels of social isolation or prompt us to seek out some low visibility role within society that minimizes our need to participate in the so-called civilized social game. Whoops. Those who have grown up in a relatively safe environment, say with at least one autistic parent, and have been encouraged to let our unique cognitive lens shape our interests and activities, we initially retain the courage to explore the world on our own terms, but then we tend to run into major challenges in the social environment at work. So yeah, that's why autistic people tend to be highly concerned about social justice and tend to be the ones who point out toxic in-group competitive behaviors. And it is this quality that has led me to conclude or to describe autistic people as best being understood as the agents of a well-functioning cultural immune system within human society. So we are the ones who, basically set limits to the ability to which competitive behavior can spread, because we're exposing it wherever we find it, and often we unfortunately pay a heavy price for that. This would have been obvious in pre-civilized societies, but it has become non-obvious in our modern society. So to retain our sanity, we constantly work against in-group competition, and we often suffer the consequences. And actually, I think this quality is what Steve Silverman has fittingly described as the truth dysfunction in non-autistic people. And I think, it might be worthwhile pointing this out, that we live in a culture that has a truth dysfunction. And we see this everywhere, right? So humans are losing the battle to stop climate change because so-called leaders have taken us down the wrong road. Civilization seems to have reached a dead end. So that's why, we see plenty of ads for heavy 1.5 to 2 ton electric cars and large numbers of, but that's not going to be the future. We also won't have large numbers of electric airplanes, and the future will likely include much less travel and much more electric bikes, velomobiles and trains. So point is, capitalism systematically favors capital intensive and hence energy intensive investments. And that's slowly but surely, it's killing us all. So there's a huge cultural bias that exists in the social sciences. And therefore, the disorders identified by Western psychology, they're simply a reflection of this cultural bias rather than a reflection of human potential. And so the level of competitiveness and collective delusion within our civilization that is considered normal, this has led to the existential risks that I just alluded to. And the survival of our species now depends on evolving new collaborative social operating systems that are based on mutual support rather than on social power gradients and a myth of meritocracy. An agency at superhuman scale, so groups larger than, let's say, 150 people, and so it's these large societies that we're part of, that's actually an emergent phenomenon that cannot be attributed to any specific individual. So it's the opposite of this celebrity cult that we see everywhere. So if we want to avoid repeating the mistakes of human civilization, the emergent rules for coordinating at superhuman scale will have to allow for and encourage a rich diversity of human scale organizations, so very small scale organizations. And these small scale organizations, we can think of them as cultural organisms or biocultural organisms. And groups of organisms with compatible operating models can be thought of as a cultural species. And so the human genus basically is the genus that includes all these different cultural species. And we need to encourage diversity there rather than monoculture. And it's obvious in the globalized world, we live in a horrible monoculture. So this brings me back to where we started with neurodivergence. There are concrete example of an emerging cultural species that provides safe and nurturing environments for divergent thinking, creativity, exploration, and collaborative niche construction. These neurodivergences are built on timeless and minimalistic principles for coordinating trusted collaboration and that predate the emergence of civilization. All members share a common commitment to visibly extending trust to people, to release the handbrake to collaboration, We unlock the tacit knowledge within the group. That's always an objective. We provide a space for creative freedom. We help repair frayed relationships, and we replace fear with courage. And the exciting aspect about the human capacity for culture is that we have created a global digital network for sharing knowledge and misinformation. So that's why we talk about the internet. And it apparently takes things like, the SARS-CoV-2 virus and a pandemic to put this network to good use. So I think I have the sense that the pandemic has really catalyzed a lot of positive activities, in particular, beyond the autistic communities. And so people are now starting to learn, and they're starting to appreciate some level of autistic honesty, at least in some pockets. And this hopefully allows us to incrementally shift cultural norms away from sharing misinformation towards sharing knowledge. So I think getting close to the end of the slides here. So I'd just like to briefly talk about competition again. In all domains that require specialized skills and deep domain knowledge, some of the best professionals that I've met, certainly, in terms of their level of experience and problem-solving abilities, have strong autistic traits. So it's very likely that these people will be misunderstood by their colleagues on a regular basis, and they may be perceived as competitive, simply because they may not stick to all the social rules of politeness at all times. And sometimes autistic people are accused of being uncooperative or arrogant. And where does this come from? I'd like to push back against, give you some tips as to how to distinguish between an autistic professional and a professional bully. So the autistic professional does not have a hidden agenda. I mean, they may get angry in the moment, but will never hold a grudge or follow a plot to get ahead. The autistic professional is also highly competent in her or his core areas of expertise, and that can then be interpreted as arrogance. And the autistic professional also does not exaggerate or brush inconvenient things under the carpet, and will openly talk about uncertainties, risks, mistakes made, and that's a good indicator, to clear up any perception of arrogance. Autistic professionals are also not interested in exerting power over other people, but they'll tend to use direct language, which can be interpreted as authoritarian. And then autistic professionals care a lot about and go to great lengths to achieve optimal work results. And this may, again, involve asking for appropriate actions from others in direct language. So it's those traits that we must see as being very positive and not work against. So this is the last slide now, and then we can discuss what's the future of autistic people. Well, I think all hierarchical structures stand in the way of collaboration across cultural and organizational boundaries, and that applies at all levels of scale. In the face of these existential risks that human societies now face, the cultural inertia of civilization will either lead to the extinction of our species, or we will rediscover an interest in genuine collaboration without hidden agendas at small scale, so at human scale. And it's in this latter context that, or latter scenario, that autists are uniquely equipped to act as catalysts and translators between different cultures and groups, because we have to spend a conscious effort on understanding each individual, and we take that time. And we're trustworthy because of our inability to maintain hidden agendas. I mean, we all know autistic people who may try to maintain hidden agendas, but we're just terribly bad at it, right? If it comes to it. And this is what marginalizes us and what puts us on a very different life trajectory. So now I'm really keen to engage with everyone who's turned up. Thank you.
Jorn, that work it just resonated so deeply with me. And I remember when I first read it, that part of it, in parts, because you've got many concepts in there. It just, I keep it in the back of my mind continually, because it's a completely different way of seeing things. And I'm so grateful to you for that. I know that there's two questions that I have in my end here, and I'm going to try and check the chat from the YouTube stream, because I do have people messaging that are watching that way. So I wonder, Maddie, you can't see the chat really from where you are. Maddie is live on location. Maddie, do you want to tell us where you are before we continue, so that way everybody kind of has a sense of what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Karen. Jorn, I'm here on location in Newcastle, and I'd like to show you, Jorn, I've just tuned in and I will be listening back, and honestly, I take such inspiration and the philosophical insight and the discussions we have. So I'm now near the Millennium Bridge, and I'll show you that it's been lit up gold. We've been working on this the last few days, so I'm going to turn the camera around if you can see this for the recording. Give me a second. Oh, come on. There we go. So now, this is Newcastle upon Tyne. So for, the Intersectional Infinity Summit and Autism Acceptance Month, that's me now on location in Newcastle on the banks of the River Tyne. So yeah, I'm just taking it in. How beautiful is that, right? Yeah, just having a moment there to appreciate it. I'll turn it round. We're now near the river, and also the sage. So that is the Millennium Bridge that is lit up gold. So the sage, the kind of art centre, they have the gold infinity as well inside. I rang a contact earlier on to put that on their screens. So that's like the kind of main, well, a lot of autistic funding and cultures in there. So we've got like a whole gold backdrop of Newcastle right now. And yeah, I came down to share that with you all during this moment. And at times it's just us together, but the impact we're really having and learning, it really is making waves, literally, as I look at the water now and I look at how that flow state of have you got a comment? I feel like we're going to do live interviews with people on the Tyne, but yeah, it really is making different waves and connections. And yeah, I guess the Karen having the questions, but to Jorn, I appreciate you so much and what we're doing and what the groundwork of what you've both done down, the years and learning myself. It's enormously appreciated. But yeah, it's a lovely moment I'm having right now, just looking here, and yeah, Newcastle is very much turning gold and turning towards emancipation rather than tokenistic acceptance. And very much, I feel that with you in the ecosystems and learning from that. Yeah, it's very much appreciated, my friend, to both of you and everybody watching back on the recordings. I thank you for being here, and yeah, thank you very much.
Brilliant. I think we're at the very beginning of a huge paradigm shift, and that needs to happen fairly rapidly, because many autistic people around me, many of us are in a terrible state actually right now, and so let's not forget that. And so there's a huge sense of urgency regarding all of this. But yeah, it's together. I think, as I said, we are the ones who can make the impossible possible, and in ways that I think non-autistic people can't really understand how that works. And it's time that we are appreciated, not just accepted.
Absolutely. I was reflecting on this this work for different reasons earlier on in our Twitter space, where we were ironically kind of experimenting with different modalities at the same time, because we had a live stream YouTube going and a Zoom meeting, and we just said, let's try it, and everybody was like, yeah, let's try it. We opened up a Twitter space, so we had all three going in the interest of collaborating and getting more ideas. And so those sort of even little silly things like that, I think we do that in so many ways. forward thinking, trying new things, and not being afraid to. It's ironic because we're told that, well, we have trouble with transitions, or we have trouble with this and that, but right. But really, when we're trying to solve problems and be innovative and be creative and think globally, I do see so much of that potential, and a lot of, I think, the potential gets traumatized out of us, right? And so that's why your first concept, which I loved so much when I read about that. Can you pronounce it for me again? So, because I know it's a WH, but it's
Whanau.
Yeah, Whanau. So
that's the traditional, the smallest economic unit in Maori society, and it's what you could call an extended family. And the key thing is that it's not limited to kinship relationship, but it's this lifetime, bond that you have. It's at that right level of scale where people collaborate based on trust, and at that scale, things happen. We absolutely must focus on this. So we must never get distracted by these absurdly large-scale structures and these large-scale transformation attempts that people are working on. I warn people against that. We need to do things at small scale, locally, and then between these human scale groups, we must collaborate. It's like, we are now collaborating, right? You're a group of educators there, right? And we are coordinating all these wonderful ventures. And so there's a scope for all these human scale groups to focus on a particular niche, and we mutually then support each other. And the result is something emergent that's completely beyond human control, right? This is the antithesis of what our mainstream ideology teaches us, right? In terms of how to move forward.
Absolutely.
We need to trust that everything emerges from the ground up.
Absolutely. Now, Real Green Horse has joined in and had a neat question, and it's connected in that it's taking us back even further, and has a wondering. And I don't know if you know, but I was also I certainly didn't go into anthropology as you have, but I was an anthropology student and very passionate about particularly the archaeological aspects of it. But in any case, so Real Green Horse has a question, wondering about Neanderthals. And now this word I don't even remember back when I studied. I'm aging myself now. So it's I want to say it right. Is it Denisovans? Say it for me. Or yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah.
Oh,
I see the word here in the chat. Yeah, Denisovans or
yeah.
Contributing.
Oh, and somebody else is asking too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've seen these theories. I've seen these. I mean, I know some autistic people are speculating, Neanderthal genes and these other ancestors that we're related to, whether they've got anything to do with autistic traits. Well, my answer is different. I think the problem that we're facing is simply a hypernormative society, and we've discussed this in our other discussion, right? It's when the norms become hypernormative, what happens is you lose people, you pathologize people, you dehumanize them. And the point is, this diversity has always been around. We've artificially narrowed the definition of what is a proper human. And I contend that this level of what we now call new diversity within the human species, this has always been the case. And this level of diversity, we find this in all species, right? And in our own species, we're trying to sort of cram ourselves into a bizarre kind of corner. And so there's no big evolutionary sort of explanation for particular autistic genes. That's complete. It's an absurd question, because it comes, well, we've marginalized and are pathologizing specific kinds of people. And this is more a reflection of the pathology in our culture than it says anything about particular qualities.
Wow, absolutely. And I've got a couple of people are coming in. I'm just sending an invite here. Just bear with me. And
so I see a question from Matty. Shall I just answer that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I think he's asking there, how can we keep building a truly actually autistic community?
I'm listening in. There's Elton John in the background, anybody tuning in. So yeah, I'm just keeping my eye on it. Quite an emotional moment on the time here, but yeah, I appreciate that. That's for you. Lovely times, lovely times.
So, but I actually like to, talk about, how do we keep building a truly actually autistic community and movement? And the answer is, regarding community, we should always talk about plural, autistic communities. This is the important thing. That relates it back to this important thing of scale, right? And it pushes back against any sort of celebrity cult that might otherwise emerge. And so just focusing on this small scale is extremely important. And then and then creating these autistic whanau. I'm having wonderful discussions with people about this. And I think we can learn from what's been very successful with the Autistic Collaboration website so far, is people gravitate towards specific themes and topics and the design of specific services that they find valuable, where they're compelled to contribute. So it's these groups of compatible autistic people that truly relate deeply to each other. This is an organic process that we can catalyze via adopting, via recognizing how that works and recognizing that we don't like to get together in big groups. We tend to come together to get things done, to do those things that we care so deeply about, that we can't actually go do anything else but do these things. And so this is, I think, again, recognizing that this is how we operate, which is so different from the way the monoculture, the global monoculture works, right? If we recognize this, then I think the movement has a real chance here. And the cool thing is that if we truly appreciate then the diversity that emerges from this, and then we can creatively start collaborating between these services and groups. And I think I'm now starting to see this happen, and this makes me very hopeful. And what's really important is that we need to, I think collectively what we have to do is to explain this to our allies and to the rest of society, because for them, we have to remember this is entirely anti-intuitive, right? I mean, for me, this is like, well, first nature even. It's so obvious, but those things seem to be very non-obvious to non-autistic people.
Now, Real Green Horse has another interesting question here. So interested in how non-degree holding autistic people are able to contribute to changing the narrative of experts that tell lies about and mischaracterize our place in society.
Beautiful. We don't need any degree holders. We need to appreciate lived experience. So there's a wonderful organization that's come out of the US, and it's still fairly small, but it's growing. It's called the Design Justice Network. And this organization, it's people who are involved in some kind of design, and who are in that space from a social justice perspective. And funnily enough, I'm part of that network, and I've discovered that it's like, well, it's full of autistic and neurodivergent people. Surprise, surprise, right? And I encourage everyone to take a look at the 10 design justice network principles.
Okay, okay.
And one of these 10 principles is that lived experience is the core design skill that we need. So we need to center lived experience, and it's a co-creation. I mean, co-design has also been it's a bastardized term, right? Where any sort of tokenistic involvement consultation is used as an excuse to say, yeah, this has been co-designed. No, we need to realize that lived experience, lived autistic experience in this case, that's the design experience, the core design skill that we need. So we can come up with architectures for autistic communities. This needs to come entirely from autistic people. You don't need a degree for this, right? And the same way that we shouldn't need a diagnosis to be comfortable in the autistic community. I mean, we know that, you know, so these things are not handed down to us. We need to emancipate ourselves and free ourselves from these tools of oppression that surround us everywhere. And by the way, I don't have any degrees. So yeah, I studied mathematics, but I'm so allergic to certification rackets that I couldn't bring myself. No, I don't want that piece of paper.
Such a great point. Jorn, I'm going outside the box right now because we've got a space that's starting right now, and I'm going to welcome people in via the space because the Twitter space is actually Neurodiversity Revisited, Next Steps for the Real World. And I know that people are getting excited and saying, wow, this is amazing stuff, because many have not necessarily heard you share about, you know, these theories and ideas. And I think the more we dig into it, the more it will really resonate with many of us. Every time I hear it or read it, I feel more closely connected to it. So I just wanted to let you know that I've got some people listening in through the Twitter space as well. And I just kind of started that quickly. So I haven't even introduced what's happening, but they're going to infer. And I saw, let's see here. So those of you that are in Twitter space right now, I actually have Jorn Bettin here presenting to us via live stream on the Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators website, or sorry, YouTube channel. And we've got some folks joining us in the Zoom and the live stream, as well as our Twitter space, which is now popping up quickly. This is what happens, right? So Real Green Horse asks, design justice, what is it called?
Design Justice Network. Just Google Design Justice Network and you'll find this, or DJN for short.
Okay, fantastic. And are they linked to the Autistic Collaboration Trust website? Because I know that.
Yeah, it's one of the organizations that we actually link to, and the other way around. And there's a Slack channel there on neurodiverse collaboration, and there's related activities starting to happen there, and I would encourage more autistic people to join that network. It doesn't necessarily cost anything, so it's another grassroots movement, and I think it's a wonderful partnership.
Mm-hmm. And just again, reading the chat, so shout out to Udit from Maddie. Udit, we missed you in the Autistics Unmasked space, and happy you could join us in the Zoom call today. You've always got such very thoughtful reflections, so welcome into this new space for us. And Real Green Horse is saying hello as well. And Udit saying hi back. So it's great. It's neat that we're getting to meet each other in different ways. So this is great. So just to reset the space, we have folks coming in through the Twitter space. And we also have several people that are in watching via the YouTube channel for the Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators, which is putting on the Intersectional Infinity Summit. This is actually the last. It's actually kind of neat because you're here, we're talking about the future, we're talking about the lighted up gold, the bridge where Maddie is. Maddie's live on location, and he's double dipping right now. He's with you here in the Zoom, and he's also in, I can see him there in the space, the Twitter space. So the future is autistic is what Kai of Autistics Unmasked keeps saying, and that's become a little bit of a theme there. And that's not an elitist approach, right? It's just that I think that it's this emancipation that Maddie talks about. Yeah, see, the hand went up. It was like I was right there.
Yeah, literally, Karen, this is surreal. I'm like I say, I'm near the quayside now, like chatting live, watching the bridge going gold, and Come On Eileen's on in the background. And shout out to
Can you let us,
and the Irish and everything. Honestly, this is amazing. I'm just trying to that just shows though, the misconceptions about processing different pieces of information. When we're coming together like this, it's on a scale that people just can't comprehend. And I appreciate you all. So yeah, shout out to Dexy's Midnight Runners as well. I'll be back in soon, but yeah.
So as people are joining us in the Twitter space, Maddie, you got to show a picture so I can at least do alt text while you're there, because you were showing us before, and I think that was before Udit came in. Can you flip your camera again? Oh, he can't even hear me. It's probably so loud. So for those that have just joined in, we're here with Jorn Bettin. I feel like we're on a news program, Jorn. This is pretty exciting. We're just going for gold today. So we have Jorn Bettin here. I'm a big fan of Jorn's work. Jorn's founder of the Autistic Collaboration Trust and has been a great partner to the Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators. A number of us have gotten together just in the last few months, but it really is. I love the name of your organization, and I know you founded other things, but the Autistic Collaboration Trust really, we are often seen to be not collaborators, not go off and do our own thing or what have you, but it really truly has been magical this week to see relationships. Just people are so excited to connect with each other. Collaborative ventures are happening. I know you've got a lot of things going on. I know Sarah's doing a lot of amazing work. And see, that's our next step, is the Sarah's Mosaic Project. All of these people, we didn't even get to celebrate about the Mosaic Project, because that's where we're going to go next, right? It's going to be another event where we really kick that off more. Okay, so Maddie, we'll take, I'm going to turn it back over to Maddie. Maddie, Existential Audits live on location. Please tell us what's going on.
Breaking news. Newcastle upon Tyne is very much being taken over. The autism is spreading wildly. And what's on now? The live broadcast. I've got a bit of, is the Beatles coming on again, Karen? It's what a moment, honestly. Just awesome. These connections will continue on, and thank you to those as well who are here learning for the first time as well, or continuing to learn. It's based upon care and respect for everybody's different views. But yeah, it's a beautiful experience. And if everybody has not checked out Aut Collab yet, please do get involved. We've got a lot of things coming up as well with autistic trauma-based mental health awareness and therapy. So please do check out the website, because as many lived experiences as possible are appreciated. And I want to give a shout out, as always, to those who are self-diagnosed or in the BIPOC community, or women who haven't had the access to that, and those in marginalised groups, and the trans community at this time. And that will truly shift in the narrative. And it will continue to happen. No matter what backlash comes, we're only going to build. So I appreciate you all. And keep coming together, everybody. Beautiful moment right now for me. And I really appreciate you all, everybody coming up. Shout out to Udit as well. Good to see you, my friend. Hope everything's going well in recovery. Great to see you.
Thank you for that, Maddie. I feel like we're interrupting what you're doing, but we're not, Jorn. Like we're all kind of, we're where he is, and we're in the dialogue that you just introduced to many people with your work and your slides. But this is what it's all about, and what a powerful way to be. I don't want to say ending. We're not really ending anything. This is really just the beginning, and this has been an immersive experience this week. Yeah, and so and in the Twitter space, just so you know, so we have, again, Maddie's in 2 places, as am I. We have Lulu here, which is great. Lulu's been with us through the week. Elizabeth, I know you've been in our spaces before. Welcome. Kai is here from Autistics Unmasked, and Kai, I know you may not be able to speak right now, and that's fine, but I'm so glad that you're here with us for that moment where the Millennium Bridge, is it millennial or millennium? Am I saying it wrong? I feel like foolish because it like I don't know it personally, but
Millennium Bridge coming in, yeah. Just to distort the sounds. Hello, mate. We've got some live people here coming on. Celebrating the vibes. What's it going? Turn around.
Wow.
Some boys out and about in Newcastle. But yeah, so Millennium Bridge will turn that round. Yeah, in Newcastle, just streaming live and yeah, celebrating the month. We'll probably get some live interviews after, I might do, but yeah, it's all good.
Oh my gosh, you're going to do live interviews? That would be so awesome.
Do you want to see some music coming in? Wait there, here we go. Oh.
Jorn, this is part of the future.
Oh, this
right?
is yeah. I mean, we now have the autistic reporter service, right? So,
Yes.
Matty, the autistic reporter.
Yeah, I'll catch you all soon. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And I know he's been taking pictures. He wants to go hang out and play the banjo, I think. So let's see, who else have we got in our space? We have, Prince X is here too. Well, this is exciting. Look at it. It's like the whole family's back together. We've got Real Green Horse and Kai saying again, the future is oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Autistic. And Real Green Horse was multitasking. So I think you flipped back.
I'm doing a live stream. Is that okay? Yeah. I'll turn around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
We're celebrating Autism Acceptance Month. Yeah, from the time. And yeah.
Oh that's awesome. What is that? Oh, can you hear that, people in the Twitter space?
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Just doing the live stream. Thank you.
This is hilarious. I love it. Okay, let's see who else is here saying hello. Heine, a computational biologist. Lots of cool people coming to the space, whether you're new or seasoned or familiar. Welcome to the family here. Hall is here. Fantastic. Autistic teacher is here. My good friend Jacqueline. We have Manjeet, who is here earlier too. Welcome back. And we have Mandy. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And I'm trying to get down to the bottom. There's so many people here. This is great. I think Charlie was there. Yep, there's Charlie. Welcome back, Charlie. Great to have you. Oh, I got to say it again. No shit, Sherlock is here. Let's see. And we've got Autism 101. Okay. And we have Dragon Daddy 92. Some new faces. This is cool. And one more. I'm trying to get to the bottom. Oh my gosh, I can't do it. I'm going, let's see. Lulu, can I make you co-host so you can help me field? Is that okay? Or or Kai? I'm not seeing a wave. We're all out of spoons right now, folks. It's okay. If somebody does want to.
What up, my chopped liver?
Are you okay to co-host? Because you're in 2 places right now. Is that okay? I would love that.
I can close out of the Zoom and just be the co-host for the space.
Sure. Whatever you like. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Real Green Horse. All right. I know Real Green Horse was going to be co-hosting with me later on, so this is like our extra special co-hosting. Okay, so I just want to check the chat here. We have, I got like 3 chats to check, and I know there is a question that's coming in. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So we got the Neanderthals question, and I'll be right back. Yes, good. Real Green Horse is in and official there. Thank you very much. Characterizing Beach Boys. Yep, got that. Come on. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through.
I was going to say I can also co-host if you need extra help.
Thank you so much. Just want to get that last one here. Where was it? Okay, so for Real Green Horse, I appreciate hearing about different things outside of my experience. I'm curious about, oh, keep scrolling down on me, 1 sec. Hold on, let me close this part up. There, that's better. I'm interested in how no, that's we already got that one, sorry. It keeps scrolling on me, bear with me, come on, come on, come on. There we go. I appreciate hearing about different things outside of my experience. I'm curious about the future of things in politics. But in politics, though, disabled people have been downtrodden the most throughout history. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Jorn?
Yeah, great and very topical question, because obviously we are marginalized and disabled by our society, and to a large extent this is really the social model of disability applies. And I think in politics hardly anyone knows about the social model of disability. And it and also coming back to what we were discussing earlier about scale, right? Mm-hmm. The way that disabled people tend to be represented in politics at state or national levels tend to be in these disabled people's organizations. And these things usually have a scale that is beyond what autistic people are comfortable with. And they have these traditional structures where then you end up having a representative, talking about or talking on behalf of thousands of people. And this doesn't go down well with autistic people. And so we have a challenge there to explain this to legislators, to politicians, that, well, with autistic people, you need to engage a bit differently. And I think we're seeing interesting developments. So it's fascinating. In February this year, when, what was it? Around 30 autistic organizations came together to push back against this Lancet Commission guideline there on autism research, right? So these are not large autistic organizations, but across the world, right? We do come together and now there's like a global task force of all these organizations. So we do have things. The organization is just unusual. It's different, and in some ways it's more representative and it's more dynamic, right? Within days, we had an international consortium going, right, across I don't know how many countries. I don't see disabled people, or for that matter, in any other domain. I don't know whether I've ever seen things move so fast. And it's, I think, via these types of things, this global task force, we can maybe carve alternative routes into politics. So here in Aotearoa, we're exploring representing ourselves directly in the disabled people's organization. So that's like the umbrella organization of all disabled people. Why don't we just go in there and we don't pretend to represent all autistic people. We just provide pointers to autistic communities in the plural. I think getting the plural out there, the diversity out there, and advocating for local autonomy, that we have the ability to articulate our needs at a local level and actually get respected, and rather than being fed some standard accommodations that are considered to be good enough for all autistic people at a national level, we all, I don't know, if we all get noise canceling headphones, well, that doesn't do it for us, right?
Yeah, that's not enough. That's not exactly leveling the playing field. Well, and that's why I think this is a really great way to like I said, it's not an ending. It's just that as we've kind of blended into this Twitter space where we are talking about next steps, after we finish this space, we'll be going into poetry and like whatever space, whatever creative space, as sort of our conclusion this evening. And so, this is such a fitting way to be thinking about next steps and bringing community together. Yeah. Another
aspect that I just wanted to weave into this is we need to, I think by working with the right kind of allies, we can get our voices heard. So the intersectional space is really relevant there because, for example, here in Aotearoa, there's no shortage of very marginalized Maori communities, and the indigenous culture is very strong. And the other, well, professionally, I work a lot with the healthcare sector. So there's this intersection between the autistic community, the Maori communities, and the healthcare sector. So we're talking about autistic healthcare professionals or Maori healthcare professionals with autistic children. And there we're building very strong alliances. And it's then via professional bodies in the healthcare sector or via representations of Maori cultures in this country that we can weave ourselves into the discussion, because that's where we can also contribute in a very valuable way, because in all those intersections, we can represent the voices of these highly marginalized autistic people. So you can imagine how marginalized autistic clinicians are, right? You can imagine how marginalized Maori clinicians are. And we know how to advocate for these people from an independent perspective because, well, certainly the autistic healthcare professionals, they're nearly all undercover. Hardly any one of them can be out in the open, but they can connect with us anonymously, and we can feed back their concerns into their professional communities.
That's such an important point that you're making about people having to hide these aspects of their identity in certain professions. And it's interesting because even throughout this week, what I have experienced a number of times is those who are seeking to be allies, some, not all, but some have come into the spaces, and as soon as they're noticed, they disappear, almost as if they're afraid. And I don't know what they're afraid of. I don't know, are they afraid that people are going to see them and think that they too are neurodivergent? Oh, the shame of that. Oh dear, the horrible, horrible affliction that would be. So I don't know if that's what it is, or I don't know if it's they're uncomfortable because they feel like they really don't know enough to contribute to the dialogue and are feeling, a bit nervous about being brought up into a Twitter space. Let's say if they've never done that before. Many of us have connected through Twitter spaces, so it's become a little bit more natural, which is ironic that here we are speaking publicly when we're the ones that have communication problems, right? So it's really fascinating. But if people who are seeking to be allies are having to disappear and hide in these spaces, when we're actually autistic or otherwise neurodivergent people, just imagine. And then when you add on the layers of those who are racialized, or Black, Indigenous, people of color, and any marginalized groups, certainly our transgender population, without a doubt. So I don't know. I'm just fascinated by the direction that this work can take us and really motivate us, because it's giving us a framework, right? And even though none of us necessarily like a framework because our minds go in very different and unique ways, it's planting seeds. Let me ask this, and then I'm going to look to see if there's questions from the Twitter space. What brought you to how did it come about that you started thinking about these things? Like, was there something that you were studying that was interesting that led you here? Was it did you just have a moment where you thought, oh, like, how did it all happen?
Does this relate to the Autistic Collaboration website and what we are now doing via that? Okay. Well, this was a very organic development. So I've always, well, I'm not competitive, never was. And going back all the way to my childhood when I sort of enjoyed tutoring other children and just noticing how much this actually improved my own understanding. And then later, well, I ended up working in consulting, and consultants have a very bad reputation for very good reason, because many of them are highly arrogant. And so I always, was the sort of very unusual consultant focusing on collaboration, catalyzing collaborations between people, removing misunderstandings, and getting people to actually work together and achieve things together. And that's always been then offended competitive people in that space. So, and I didn't last long in the traditional sphere of employment. So 20 years ago, I then created what I hoped would become a good company. And I think we've achieved that. But then even when you then interact with clients and customers out there, you are again exposed to this market environment, to this bizarre sort of suspicion, distrust, competition, the ritual of going through bizarrely biased RFP processes. And I noticed that it's always the autistic people around us, and we know how to collaborate, and it's the rest of society that seems to be disabled when it comes to collaboration at eye level. And so and then reading about this widely spread myth that we are supposed to be bad at teamwork. I mean, so yeah, the whole website started with this sort of annoyance saying, no, this is the opposite is true. We are the ultimate collaborators here, the ultimate people who actually know how to build, nurture, and maintain trusted relationships, and then just get things done, regardless as to whether there's any sort of financial reward or not. I mean, that is usually lasting on our minds. Yeah. And so that's how it started. And then I think it's been wonderful. So I think the pandemic especially has catalyzed further activities. And now if people want to help, all help is appreciated, because I think there's more and more projects that are emerging, and we need people to coordinate and to also connect people, compatible people. So, and there's immense interest in this work on autistic trauma peer support. We're now starting to document how we see this becoming a reality, and then we need support in actually making this happening. But again, with the right kind of people who are trustworthy and prepared to put in the effort there. So this is, I guess if you want to contribute, the doors are open, and if you have new ideas for services, by all means. I mean, we just want to, the website ends up being an index, and there's no single point of control of whatsoever. The key thing is that around every service, the design and then the operations, that needs to be run by an autonomous team. And you can conceptualize the whole thing as this growing index of collaborations, and if we can maintain a trustworthy index of these things, then I think we are making the impossible possible.
So do you suggest then those folks who are autistic, whether diagnosed or not, that they certainly check out the Autistic Collaboration Trust, the AutCollab website, and I know you have the Twitter handle as well. And then like, are the people that are listed, should they reach out to you like by Twitter? What's your best way? What do you prefer? How do you prefer they reach out to you?
On the website, we've got contact forms for participating, and that way we can then coordinate responses to this, and we can provide people with background. And it's really great to see this interest here in well, what we have been discussing here, and in this new adventure concept, in the autistic Whanau concept, because those, what we're trying to do there is to document useful first principles that people can use to, well, get together and form these tight-knit groups that can get things done. And our experience has been that the way autistic people are successful at doing this is using first principles that are radically different from what you would learn, for example, in, I don't know, a business school, right? Or even in some social entrepreneurship course, right? As to how you would run a charity or something. It's different. And so we just want to pass on basically an open source. You know, we've got all these designs out there just here. And by focusing on first principles, you can actually, I encourage people to implement these principles within their local context, right? And to add to this as needed, but keep it as simple as possible. And then just do your thing and see how the collaboration emerges. And then we try to be a place of peer support. So then if people run into barriers, questions, then let's learn from each other.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I see standing out about you know, what's happening. I mean, certainly Kai and the team at Autistics Unmasked are trying to, like, they've got members that are like from all over the States, and I'm pretty sure that they've got beyond the States too, right, Kai? Do you want to elaborate on how you're set up?
We are mostly, so we're stationed, I guess, based in Boston. I say stationed, I'm an ex-military brat, so that's where that comes from. My father is the Army, but we're based in Boston. Though some of our team, Holland Regan, our research team, she's overseas, and we did previously have a couple more people overseas, so they've you know, kind of come and gone as sometimes these things happen with volunteer organizations, but we do have like, we are able to have reach overseas, even though we are based in Boston. So
And that's what I think I've been noticing about, it's not to say anything negative about like earlier advocacy groups. It's just that sustainability has to be built into the you know, non-hierarchical structure. If you don't have sustainability, then you're not going to, people are going to just burn out, right? You have to have those people that you can rely on. And even just in the last 2 days, and yes, like, we're exhausted, many of us, I'm certainly exhausted, but you know, when something like, I was reaching out to people to say, you know, can you do this? Can you do that? And they were just like, hop in, right? Or they'd be reaching out to see like how I'm doing, or how so-and-so's doing, or, you know, and these are people that like we're just meeting, but we get it. We understand some of the complexities about living life in a society that thinks we're broken, which is, to take it from the title of our space the other day. And that's what I think is so neat about groups like yours and Kai's, and, you know, any that are up and coming. And I think, you know, the 9 is operating similarly to that. And I know it's a little different because it's kind of educators, but like I said to Maddie and a bunch of people the other night, I see, and I think most of us see everybody as educators. You know, if anybody who's taking responsibility for making things sustainable, making things better for the next people that come after us, making things better for each other, right? Like, when, I mean, I think of somebody like Pastiche Graham, young person, and is every day out there on social media saying, I love you all, you are amazing, don't ever forget it. Like, that is part of being an educator and taking care of community, everybody has a role that I think we have to really appreciate and celebrate and value. And I when I saw the panels that you were putting together, the global panels, which continue, and what are the intervals at which you put those out now? Is it a regular time when you release those, Jorn?
No, these panels are, well, they've also evolved organically. So it started with this campaign to ban all forms of conversion therapies. And I think, I mean, you've been part of one of these more recent panels, and you can see that this is now shifting, you know, beyond what the scope is getting broader. Yeah, there's a lot of value in autistic activists coming together who are working on complementary kind of projects. So it's a form of bidirectional learning, right? And knowledge sharing, and actually just this composition of the panel that we had the other day with Quinn and with the people from Landmark College. I'm already thinking about sending an email to all of you because I think there are further panels that we can have with that group specifically about education, how that needs to change, and then also what the challenges are in then allowing autistic people and autistic Whanau, autistic communities to emerge and thrive in this world, because currently our world is not set up for that, right?
That's right. Yeah.
We've got an education system that has entirely different objectives. And so I want to talk more about these very fundamentals and with a view of how do we communicate this to the outside world, what our collective needs are, so that this can actually change and evolve.
But that, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's one example. And I think if people, these panels will always, I think, come out of specific projects that we're doing. And if the interest is starting to rise on a specific project or a service, then it makes sense to have these panels, because we need to co-create these things so that they actually work for the people who are interested in them. And these panels are part, I think, of that design process and then learning process on an ongoing basis. So we always have these types of panels. And if you ask me where this is heading, I suspect this is going to be centered around projects. And remember, the ban ABA thing, well, that's more a campaign than a project, but it's a theme, and there's people who are deeply involved in this, wonderful domain experts who've been in that space for often decades, like Tanya, for example, right?
Yes.
So we need to center that domain expertise in all these different areas.
Yeah, and I mean, for those that are not familiar with the panels that we're talking about on the Collab site, it's a global campaign, global panels that are basically fighting against all forms of conversion therapy, and with ABA being considered one of those. And recently, Canada did outlaw gay conversion therapy, all forms of conversion therapy, but I don't think they're making the connection the way that we are. And so right, yeah, no, that's okay, they're I agree, they're not. And so for the first time, to my knowledge, autistic led advocacy groups were speaking at the Senate committee just a few nights ago. They did an amazing job, Anne and Vivian, and I did invite them to come and sort of connect with us, but they're both super tied up right now with everything that's been going on, and certainly we'll be collaborating and I'm sure connecting with them very soon. because that's the kind of, like, when we think about, I mean, the topic of this space is like next steps for this world, right? This real world. And it's, if we're looking at what does change look like and how do we make it happen, we have to have a strategic plan, and we have to, this is why the panels are so important, because anybody who is wondering, if I'm a parent of a newly diagnosed child and I'm wondering, I'm wavering, right? Like, do I do this or not? One person draws you to the Autistic Collaboration Trust global panels. Watch this, and they will hear from people who, you know, have the, we talk about evidence-based stuff. There's lots of evidence out there that you are collecting, and I think too often people look for data in number sets. Data is also very powerful in anecdotal sets, and it's not like there's only 5 people that are saying this, right? People all around the world are saying the same thing. So if we're doing more harm than good, why on earth would we persist, right? It makes absolutely no sense to try to, you know, force the autistic brain out of the autistic. It makes no sense. It's just awful. So just so those who are back joining us in the space, we have a 3-way, 3 modes of communication going on right now. We have a Twitter space going on. We have a Zoom call that's being with Jorn Bettin, the founder of Autistic Collaboration Trust, and someone who many of us really admire so much for this amazing work that you're doing, to bring people together and have this diversity of resources, this bank of resources, ideas, books. I know that you're creating and putting there. And, you know, always open to collaborate, because it's all about collaborating to move us forward. And we're also live streaming that to our YouTube channel, which is the Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators. And this is the second last space for the Intersectional Infinity Summit, but I use that word cautiously because it's really not the end. It's just the beginning. We've been in a week of immersive summit, going strong all week. I told some people I didn't actually go to bed last night. And I haven't done that in years. It's terrible, I know. So I'm on pretty much no sleep, because it's just what happens sometimes when you're kind of going. And I got into a state of a flow. I was totally in a flow state. And we finished up it was me, a real green horse, and Maddie just chatting last night after a space. And it's not to say I'm not sharing just for the heck of it. I'm just saying, like, when we get going and when we're in that zone, like, there is no stopping us. And so, yes, I will crash tomorrow. I know that, but I'm okay with that. I'm reserving the day to just, you know, right, just to check out, hopefully go outside and get some vitamin D. I had to get a week of UV in before we came to the summit, before we did the summit. So anyway, so I just want to have a look at the space and throw it out to anybody there that's joined us. I don't know if anyone has any reflections or thoughts in terms of, you know, next steps for the real world, or something else you want to, you know, wonderings that you have that maybe, you know, we can throw out there. And like I said, Jorn is with us here. You know, however you're joining us, feel free to reach out. And I'm wondering, let's see, could, if you're able to, my most wonderful 9 friend, Jacqueline, if you're able, can you have a tiny look at the YouTube channel, or maybe Lulu, if possible, because I just want to make sure that there's no messages there. My iPad just died on me, so I can't actually see it, and I don't want to mess up the streaming that's going on my computer. Thank you. Oh, we see hands. Okay, Kai. Oops. Go ahead.
Hey, so earlier when Maddie was showing us, the light up of the bridge, and Karen, you had made a little joke about it. I feel like I'm on a news anchor. So,
Yeah.
That's over to you, Maddie. And I'm watching, as I'm in the space and watching the live stream of it, and it did kind of resemble, with Jorn on
Yep.
the panel there, and then Maddie, going over to his stream.
Yep.
It did kind of resemble the news broadcast.
Yep.
It kind of gave me the idea of, I don't know if this is something that AU is going to take on, or maybe just as all of us being, partners,
Yep.
here in the Autistic Collaboration Trust, and just any other organization that we're partnering with, and as well as just like individuals who are partnering with us outside of organizations. If we just get some sort of like autistic brand little news station and kind of, keep going, especially through April and, the rest of the year, and just all every year have these similar sort of live stream events that, resemble kind of the format of a news broadcast, and have whatever's going on at AU, whatever's going on, politically with autistic, the autistic community, whatever's going on with not just like anything involving the autistic community, having some sort of, like a spokesperson from each organization or individuals, and just kind of run it like a news, channel through maybe YouTube or something of that nature. I think would be so cool. Because, well, one, news stations were a special interest of mine when I was younger. I was trying to emulate the anchor voice that I still tend to do sometimes. But even still, I just think it would be really cool. It would be a way to kind of, a slightly different format from the panels that we've been having, a slightly different format from the spaces, but still in a way for us to connect with our community. And then getting a message from one of my from our strategists at AU. If you're okay, I'd like to read that to the space, but not before you give me the go ahead. I didn't see the whole thing, so just let me know. Just some way to. I feel like this would be a great way to continue on with. I guess keeping each other in the loop. Emails are great and everything, but this is like I see this with a broader reach. I see this with being able to reach people outside of this community that we've started to cultivate through Twitter and through the Zoom calls and everything. I'm going to read what Eel said. So he said, so for those of you who don't know, Emerge is something that AU has been working on as kind of like a branch off resource for housing, job placement, things like that. It's a whole thing, so I won't get into it. But Eel is our strategist, and he's saying, I have an autistic news source on my list for Emerge. I'm so excited about what you're saying in space right now. Long term, I think we could develop something real that isn't beholden to capitalism for the news. So I think that would be great. And I definitely trust Eel leading the charge on that for AU's purposes and for Emerge's purposes. But if we could get something going sooner than that, even I don't know how long it would take Eel to do. To kind of organize something like that, but I'm just like, wheels are turning, and I'm like, how can we keep the energy going? Like, how can we continue to do this and keep each other in the loop and stay up to date and include information about, these stop the shock and things like that, like all these different hashtags that are circulating in the community. I think this would just be a fantastic way of doing that. And before I repeat myself anymore, I will, as Karen says, you'll provide back.
It's interesting because just because there are young advocates out there doesn't mean that we can't learn as much from them as we can from those who have been around for many years. And I think we need to learn from each other. And I go back to something that I know Aidan Lee, I've mentioned his name before, and Aidan is a young man who not only is he an amazing painter, he keeps. Oh my gosh, I was muted. Oh my gosh. Jorn heard me. That could be it. That the data is really revealing that, Kai. You're absolutely right. I've done that twice today, so it's okay. The preamble was essentially that, you know, we have to learn from young advocates as well as those who have been around for a long while. And Aidan Lee, who I've mentioned before, who helped us out with, he did a podcast. He podcasted. He met with Ayanna Davis, phenomenally autistic, and he also did the art night the other night. And he works with a team of young men, and they put on this just like Youth Connect. They do this great podcast, and I'm not suggesting we do that necessarily, but they inspired me to think, like, how could we do something like that? And so it's interesting that this has evolved organically through this as I almost see it like, you know, kind of like what you were saying, Kai, where people from all over are coming together, but we're not going to have a behind closed doors meeting. It would be, you know, like live stream. People are watching it, and that's how we get allies, active allies, watching, listening, because there would be talk of ABA, there would be talk of Rottenberg, there would be talk of, you know, all of these things, and it wouldn't just be a, well, what do you mean you don't light it up blue? I don't understand. Tell me. Because I think part of why I get so exhausted, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I think the data speaks for itself. We're constantly having to explain why. Like I can't, the number of times that I've had to explain why not blue, why not puzzle pieces. And that's why we know, we anticipated before April, but when April comes, like, it's like you want to just press play on the old fashioned tape recorder, right? Because it's just non-stop. So I really think that this is something that we need to explore. And if that's what comes out of this, where we have multiple, and they don't have to really quote unquote organizations, right? It could just be that we have almost like non-hierarchical delegates. You know, I mean, we've already got people that are connecting in this way, and we'd all be connected just further, and we would strategically schedule, you know, ahead of time so that we don't just like leave it, because some of us will get these fantastic lofty ideas. If we don't schedule it to come back and then, you know, do what we were going to do, even if it's a 5-minute check-in, it's better than just leaving it be, right? So yeah, okay, so that's definitely a good next step. I see a hand up first from Maria Silverheart, it looks like. Go ahead, Maria.
Hi there. Am I audible?
You are. You're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Karen, I saw you this morning in Kevin's space, and I've been following him and on autism, and I'm just really grateful for these spaces. I'm a community builder in tech and open source, and what I heard, you had a gentleman speaking through your account. I don't know who that is, but I just wanted to ask some questions about, you know, who these people are, because I wanted to connect. I'm a community builder in like tech and open source, but you know, fun fact about me is that I am a registered behavioral therapist. For the last 4 years, I've been working with autistic students and teaching them how to code. And I've learned so much today, just today being in like different spaces and things like that, about the things that I just didn't know about that's going on in the communities with this space. And so I just really want to get on this side where we're creating an environment for these talented folks to be able to have an outlet. And so when I came in, I was just coming in at the time that the Green Horse, the real green horse was talking about how corporate doesn't, or, you know, the like working environment, it's not collaborative and it's competitive. And that's, I get a lot of people that come to me that are afraid of talking about their abilities or their you know, their sensitivities and whatnot, because the environments are not helpful for them. and the environments are toxic, and so they're more toxic environments, and the kind of like get the work done and just get going forward can't really happen because of some of the toxicity of these environments. So I would just definitely love to help and collaborate and connect with those that are along in alignment with what you're talking about. So I just wanted to ask, I want to say thank you first. Thank you for all of like the information I've been learning and everything like this. And also how to connect with some of the other folks that I've heard coming through your account.
Sure. Yeah. So Jorn Bettin is the founder of the Autistic Collaboration Trust. So that's certainly a site that you would want to look at. I think, you know, it's important for us to have those who are seeking to be allies. And it sounds like, you know, there was maybe a turning point for you today, which is great because we need more turning points to happen. And it's interesting. And in these spaces, we're open and transparent. And I'll really be revealed to you that when the word behavioral therapist came out, I literally had a guttural response. Like I literally felt sick because that just the work that we're doing, and this is to not be, you know, for you to take offense. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's just that so much of what's going on right now in the controversy has to do with like a behaviorist approach. And so when we're connecting with people who are in these roles and trying to figure out new ways, those neuroaffirmative ways, and, you know, digging into, you know, places, resources like the Therapist Neurodiversity Collective, and, you know, looking up and what is neuroaffirmative practice and how do you be, how can you be a human rights and trauma-informed educator, and, you know, because the layers of trauma and abuse that happen to our students and to clearly many of us who have grown up is really the impetus for what needs to, like, for this change. So absolutely, we're happy to have you co-learning on this journey with us. And you know, if you like follow the folks that are in the group, and for sure you can DM myself. I'm sure that you know, Maddie, and you know, if maybe you guys want to give a thumbs up if you want somebody to reach out to you, that's good. Sorry, my dog is totally distracting me with his nose.
Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for explaining and these new terms that I'm learning in these spaces. I really appreciate it because, you know, like I said, I just got involved for many reasons, people in my family or whatnot, and putting tech together to, you know, with autism, and learning about this. Has been a turning point, and I just, you know, kind of want to really be in a place to help. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's tricky because those of us who are in education, especially in places where applied behavioral analysis is still part of you know, legislation, and it's not, doesn't mean it's legislated and you're forced to do it. It means that it's in that list of things that are okay to do with autistics. And I think firmly the vast majority of us now are really trying to unite and say, yeah, there's really no form of ABA that's okay. And I said earlier today, and so I'll say it again today, because I've already said it, like I take my career very seriously, but I know I take it in my hand, you know, it's at risk. I'm somewhat protected because I am a government employee, but you know, there are pressures on us to you know, do what we're supposed to do. And speaking out against things that are still in legislation is risky. I'm not saying there's anybody out to get us or anything like that, but it is, you know, when you stand out as the one person that is speaking out against this so-called evidence-based practice, it's very tricky. So I think, you know, if you are certainly looking to learn, you're in the right space, as long as it's it's not at all going to be us trying to figure out any push for behaviorists, because I think we're past that, and we'll play nice as long as we're not being traumatized when we're trying to play. So certainly welcome here as a co-learner, and thank you for that and for sharing your experience today. It's great. April 2nd was a turning point for you, so that's wonderful. Real Green Horse.
Yes, so much.
Yeah.
I just want to say, it's not really a profession. I mean, I'm registered or whatever, but it's a side thing that I've done for years. Just so great to learn.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate and I highly DM. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just like to put this out there, I think many of us in education, I was saying this earlier today too, like I believed in not ABA, but I was a teacher who believed that behavior is communication, and all of these things that you would hear because it was best practice, and we used token sticker charts and all of those things, and when you dig deeper into those, and you start to realize that those things are not actually teaching little people any sustainable skills. They're really just teaching them to put their own needs aside. And certainly there are different circumstances in every family, in every situation. But a lot of those things that people see as harmless, or people see as just regular sorts of interventions, we have to peel back the layers as to what's actually going on in many cases, because often they go against an autistic neurology that could be doing so much better if you just utilize specializations and flow state and normalizing stimming and sensory needs and balancing those. So I think there's got to be a shift, and I think that's a real big piece of it. So I'm going to turn it over now to Real Green Horse. Go ahead.
Hi, I've spoken about this in some other spaces, but if people are wanting to learn about neurodivergency or autism or just general mental health stuff, I'm not a professional, but I am autistic and I have lived experience and lots of neurodivergent friends actually who struggle with conditions that I don't have. So just inadvertently, I've been exposed to a lot of the spectrum. But in terms of like what's happening going forward, there's absolutely going to need to be an information arm and a political arm. Like this work that we're doing doesn't go anywhere if it doesn't get translated into advocacy work.
Yes.
And so
agreed. Yeah.
Just keeping that in mind and keeping that framework, steady as we're trying to work forward with all of this, just something that something that I wanted to talk about was the fact that a lot of this history in mental health is linked back to the person who invented ABA and gay conversion therapy. It was the same person, in case you were wondering.
Yep.
And this person also had links to Nazi eugenicist Germany. Mm-hmm. So for those of you that don't know, mm-hmm. that's the reason why the word Asperger was removed from the DSM. It was offensive to Jewish people, and it was glorifying a Nazi eugenicist. So we don't use that term anymore.
And thank you for reminding people about that, because I think many of us in the community, since so many of us have heard this so many times, we forget that some people, this may be new to them, and I'm guilty of that all the time. Jorn, you sent a great overview, that kind of prehistory of autism when we were talking about that video. And I posted both so I can't remember what it's called because we joked. It was like, if you want the prehistory, but there's basically, it's a chart that goes through like the key players and sort of moments in time when things kind of just went wrong, and then they just kept getting more wrong, and that includes things like, Light Up Blue, and the people who defined autism and how it was tweaked and changed, and criteria, you name it. It just goes through all those things. I mean, Kieran Rose does an amazing training, which I've said since last fall when I did it. It's definitely highly recommended. But the gist of the history session is on that chart that Jorn's team has created, or probably Jorn. I'm going to guess it was either you or Sarah that put that together. And then I also the neat thing about being connected to different people around the world is I was looking for a great kind of I didn't want to rewrite the history of autism because I know all of these pieces, but I didn't have just a catch one size, like a catch of all of them. And so I found this particular video, and I reached out to Jorn, and I said, I think I reached out to a few people, but Jorn got back to me straight away, and was watching it and saying, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. So it's not perfect because there's like a tiny bit of language that even though if the person's done it, they're autistic, they might say like autistic people, blah blah blah. I'm a fan of saying many or a number of, so that way we're not generalizing and perpetuating that it's like everybody does this or everybody does that, because we all know that every autistic is unique. But otherwise, the history is there, the turning points are there, the reasons for political movement are there, and that is actually linked on the site. I want to say it's on the summit site, on the resource page, I think. If not, it's on the 9 website, and I'll be putting it on both. Oh, I double dipped. Okay, good. I thought they were really quite good. Thanks for checking, Maddie. So yeah, so I just want to throw that out there. And for those that are like that, to me, that those resources, those global panels, that's why I created that massive toolkit last year or the year before, because I was just wanting to have everything at my disposal, because I was so exhausted trying to explain all these things. I didn't want to have to go and start blogging and vlogging. I just wanted to say, like, here's a checklist if you're trying to find books, and to make sure that they would be vetted by the community. Here's the history of autism. Here's why we don't use the puzzle pieces. And there's a lot out there, but vetting it is getting harder and harder, because there are trolls out there, and there are a lot of people in the autistic community, best of intentions, but they don't necessarily all have the depth of knowledge. And so there are some resources that are going to be a little more aligned with historical facts and the statistics and the data, and we want to be as authentic as we can, right? So and true to the history books, because we don't want to invalidate. If we were being asked, for example, to go and be witnesses at the government, or go and do a speech somewhere, or we want to make sure we've got sort of that catch-all that is the most appropriate and correctly resourced, referenced and such. So let's see. Oh my gosh, I have. Oh, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, go on, Justin. As somebody who is on that neurodivergent autistic spectrum, it is really great to have a community where people are on that spectrum, and I know that it is quite difficult to have people be more accepting of our our community, and I just feel like the hashtag instead of autism awareness should be autism acceptance, because I feel like that would be more better, and because it feels like it's something that we need to do,
Mm-hmm.
and to be accepted into our community, because I feel like, or just on social media as well, I just feel like that would be more beneficial.
Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. I think I mean, looking at who's in the space, I think most of us are seeking autistic acceptance, even the word autism, and then even we defer, I think generally our rule of thumb, and again, I'm not speaking for the whole community, but deferring to a person's preference is I think first and foremost important in terms of how they want to identify. But I know for me, I used to say on the spectrum because that was just kind of a term, and now I don't use that. Now I just use autistic, and there are people within the autistic community who will say they're autistic and they're phase 1 or phase 2, phase 3. From my perspective, I don't like to do that, because that to me it's like you either are or you aren't autistic, and support needs can change over time, and those levels are just, I think, another way of talking about functioning labels. So it's interesting how the language changes over time, but that's something I think we have to look at and reflect on as a whole community, and figure out what suits us best as individuals, and the why behind our choices, right? As we're shifting this movement forward. So I'm just looking at the time, Jorn, and I know with time zones and everything, like we started at just after, I want to say, was it 4? So we've been at this for, and I want to respect your time. So certainly if you want to stay in this space, by all means do. But, I think we've got some good starting points here that I know you're always just a DM away, which is so fantastic that we're able to do that. It's hard to believe that we're at the end of the week. It's been quite something. It really has. And I can't thank you enough for all that you've done. And of course, please extend that to Sarah too. If you didn't catch Sarah's interview, Maddie interviewed Sarah the other day and did such a lovely job of just going over the important work that she's doing to just reiterate that message of how important representation is, and getting, people to see themselves reflected in a variety of ways. And as an educator, that's near and dear to my heart, but certainly anybody who's, anybody who watches television can see, like, where are we out there? We're nowhere. And if we are, we're not played by us. So like, that's right. It's ridiculous. It really is. So Jorn, what are your thoughts? Do you want to stick around for a few minutes, or do you want to give us some closing thoughts before you go?
Well, just been wonderful to see all the amazing work that you've put into this whole summit, and as you've said just earlier, I mean, you are obviously in flow mode and hyper-focus mode, so I can see all that energy. It's so much appreciated, and I'm enjoying this immensely. I'll also send you a short bio for Ülkü, so that you can add that to the website, because she's part of the interview, and I'm part of those important projects. So Autistic Collaboration is spreading all over the world, and it's wonderful. So
sorry,
I'll probably need to get myself another cup of tea here, so my day started fairly early as a result of this.
What time is it for you right there? Just to give people a perspective.
10:15 in the morning here. So
right. So you started well before 8 a.m. then. Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you want to say good, well, for us it's good night. Do you want to say good day and go off, or do you want to come back? Like,
yeah, what's the schedule there with this space? So I'm now in sort of unfamiliar territory.
That's good though. That's good. So this space is one that, I mean, we were just going to do this space until like for about an hour, but we started to get lots of people coming in, and then we blended the spaces. So this is what happens. But our next space at 8 o'clock will be the poetry space. So I'm going to suggest that I mean, it's kind of Real Green Horse and me that can, I mean, Maddie's here too. Like we probably should close this one out. I mean, for my own sanity in about like 15.
Can I just come in about that, Karen?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Like, it might be that time, but also maybe half an hour later, we shall record the poetry space. And like I say, I'm still on site in Newcastle.
Yeah.
The Millennium Bridge.
Yeah.
So those joining, we will send those links out. But also to Jorn. This will continue this conversation and this discussion of what it means to be a community. And I truly mean this in my heart and soul, that beyond the conference, to everybody here, you know, if we keep talking about intersectionality and being proudly autistic and neurodivergent, in the face of any challenges we face or backlash, we want to be here and provide the start of a community that will transcend, you know, merely conversation as well. So I just wanted to build upon that what we're basically implementing is this philosophical concept of authenticity. And that means that as many of us multiply across the globe, we can continue to build, and also to be open about mental health care, about how you're feeling about that, about how people need support at different times. I want to empathize that, that it's okay if people are, you know, struggling, whatever emotion this month brings. It's okay to take time out, but also to build any art and poetry and philosophy. And if we aren't always at the exact times, I hope you can all understand that.
Yep.
It's through sensory processing. And, you know, Karen building that as well, that what Karen has done, this monumental force of being around internationally, it's you know, pass on this philosophy of emancipation and shared kind of love and trust, because that's what we want from people. It's not to just hold that power, it's to share love and power in a respectful and consensual way. And I just wanted to say that, you know, sitting here looking at the river in Newcastle right now, you're all capable of so many amazing things. And even if you're listening, just being there and being present and being true and authentic, that makes a big impact. And I can feel you all here in that. I really can. So yeah, to Jorn, we will catch up in the future, and to Karen, we're gonna keep building this, and we all will, for sure. Yeah.
Maddie, you know what I would love if you could, just to sort of round out the evening while you're there, could you do one of those, like, I'm Maddie, existential autist, and I'm here at such and such, and
actually, what I want to do is share. Maybe I'll do a spoken word piece to end out.
Totally. And tweet it out so that the world can see that, like, they've done it there, and Aberdeen, because I know Marion McLaughlin, who's the founder and I think she goes by CEO of Autism Understanding Scotland. They pushed for the Aberdeen. What was it in Aberdeen that's going to be lit up?
Aberdeen, everything. I think it was the university and colleges and
right.
everything in Scotland and the north. I've got that all prepared, to be fair. I had some friends coming down, they've took some shots.
Yeah.
Some photos, I didn't mean shots in different ways. I could not possibly comment, obviously very professional as we are.
But yes, it will all be there to share out those photos near the bridge, and literally anything with gold infinity and also different colours, anything away from blue.
Sure.
You know, anything that supports human rights users for Autism Speaks, which they are.
Yeah.
We will continue to amplify that. That is not the way forward. But yeah, I'll share that piece now if you'd like, Karen, before the poetry stays later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think
Jorn's going to say
Karen?
something. 1 sec.
One,
yeah. So this was amazing, fantastic, and Matty, what you've done there is putting a fantastic, I think, angle on things. So I'll hand over to you in a minute. I just wanted to thank everyone here who attended and encourage all of us to come together exactly as you were saying. We need to support each other, collaborate, share ideas, learn from each other. That's so important, and the support, mutual support, needs to be very practical. So I'm going to sign off now because I need to contact a few people who are really important, who need some support. So I'll attend to those, and I'll entrust you to do further spaces. And I'm as Karen is saying, I'm only a message away. We can always we'll pick up the spread very soon. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jorn.
Thank you so much, Jorn. I appreciate you eternally and everything going forward. I'd actually like to give a highlight right now to Autism 101 with Jeff that's coming in. I'd love to give a shout out to the organisation that has started up. Honestly, Jeff is building a lot of accessible internet resources. And would you like to come in? One. Yeah.
So, see you.
Hi.
Hi there. Yeah. I'm a newly diagnosed autistic adult last year, and I'm older, so I guess I'm an autistic elder. And when I was diagnosed, I had a lot of questions, and it took quite a lot of time to find different communities and websites and people I trusted and so forth. It just took a long time. And so, since I'm involved in website development and that, I decided to focus building a website geared mainly to newly diagnosed people and people that think they might be autistic. So the site's autism-101.com. And it's just newly launched, and I don't have a ton of resources yet, and I would love some input. So if you have things that should be there, I would love to include those. Would just love interacting with anyone that would have some ideas or resources that should be there. Thanks.
And sorry, can you just clarify, because I was getting the text sort of while you were talking and I think I distracted myself, or it could be the sleep deprivation. It's a website, it's a compilation of resources. Like what's the end goal? What do you have in mind?
So my goal is for someone that's newly diagnosed to be able to go to one place to find all the great resources just in one place. So on my site, I have sections like for autistic groups that are online, and then groups that are in real life. How to find autistic Twitter and what hashtags we use. The same for Instagram, some Instagram accounts, some Twitter accounts, the same for YouTube, etc. And then, excuse me, for people that think they might be autistic, I have resources for them as well. As I talk about, being self-diagnosed and that's valid. And then I talk about the pros and cons of seeking, a formal diagnosis, and then point them to resources about that where they can learn more. So I kind of really want to be just a gateway for information that's out there that can be difficult for people to find because, quite honestly, you type in autism, you're going to get Autism Speaks every time in Google. That's the very top thing. It's always going to come up. And if someone goes there first, they get to frame the narrative, right? And I'm tired of that. I want autistic people to frame the narrative. So I have like a list of websites that are, hosted by autistic people that talk about things that we care about, autistic living, how to get if you're interested in trying to get a job, just dealing with life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great websites that are out there. I've listed some, but again, I'm new to this, and so I don't know everything that's out there. So it would be helpful for those who do to just let me know. Thank you.
So
I just want to, before you come in, Karen, I want to say it's Jeff Owens. Basically, myself and Jeff have witnessed the start of this website and the resources being built, and what we've shared together. Jeff is making a big impact on the accessibility of the website and having speech to text.
Good.
It is revolutionary, honestly. To share that and the resource and building the conversations we've had about men's mental health, but also discussing intersectionality, Jeff is really putting a lot of work into that and giving it the community accessible for all. And I really encourage everybody to access Autism 101 if they can, and to connect it to the Intersectional Infinity Summit. Just on a personal level, Jeff, I see you, I respect you, and everybody who's building new resources. If you've had, official diagnosis, self-diagnosis, we're learning together, and we really will continue this. So thanks, Jeff. Thanks.
So if I can just throw it out there. Sorry, I jumped the line, Real Green Horse. Do you mind if I give my thought? Is that okay?
You're the host. I'm just here.
Oh, well, no, it's just because I just want to, I have something that's connected directly to this. That's why I just wanted to mention. So
totally fine.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. So last year or the year before, just before, I guess, we were forming the 9, I created, basically I was keeping track of all of these things. I wanted to have a catch-all resource. So I created a Google slide deck, which just kept growing and growing and growing. And I wasn't intending to do anything with it. But then it got to be so big, I thought I better start coding this as, this is the section on, social cues, and this is the section on facts, and this is the section on puzzle pieces and what have you. And so I ended up drafting and getting my 2 colleagues who I met right around that time to kind of help vet some of the resources that were in it, because it was getting so big. And we actually shared it with the school board, and it was sent out to the entire system. And it's like literally too big for anybody to do anything with. But if people know that it's out there, then they can access it. It is actually a Google slide deck. Now I haven't updated it in a couple of months. I might throw things in once in a while, but I'll put things in there. For example, like when the Equity Institute was happening in I think November, which was frankly probably the best conference that I had been to date, and free, and it had lots of amazing people there presenting, speakers, non-speakers. It was partially some of the inspiration. We knew we wanted to do a big event like this. We didn't certainly know it was going to end up like this, and I think even a week ago I didn't know that it was going to end up quite like it did, because things just kept coming at us, which was really great. But this toolkit is actually hyperlinked on the 9 website. So if you just search up, let me just see if I can, I'll type it in. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm recording. No, I'm not recording. I can do it. Okay. So it is.
Public service announcement. You're all wonderful in your autistic and neurodivergent ways. Just wanted to add that in.
Well, and see, the thing is, I don't want, the reason I wanted to interject was because I not that this is going to be better than what you've got, but I don't want people to reinvent the wheel all the time. And the caveat being, this is all done non-for-profit. I sent this out there so that people could access it if they needed it, and I did make it accessible. I think it's even on my link tree. So actually, yeah, you can find it on my link tree. Like, it's there. It's like, and it's not like it's not original work. It's like highlighting, amplifying, like, you know, you name it, right? Like anybody who, and again, it's not been updated in the last little bit, but like all of my favorites were there, right? And anytime I'd come across something new, it was there. And then my focus turned to obviously the summit and, you know, running my school. But so the website, if you just look up, let me see if I can grab it. I can't put it in the chat. It's not the same.
Darren, just to say, you can, if you click like to the right hand side, you can pin it to the top of the jumbotron. There's an option to share it to the space.
Yeah, but I can't. I've lost, like, my eyes are not even good enough to do that right now. I know it sounds terrible. I'm just, yeah, yeah, like I literally need eye drops. I'm so tired.
Would you like me to share one of the things? What is it?
Well, yeah. So it's just like if is it not linked to the summit site? I'm pretty sure that it is. Let me just check. Oh, I know where you can find it. It is on, yeah, it's linked on the YouTube account. So if you just Google the YouTube account, so Neurodivergent Infinity Network of Educators, which is our, you know, we've launched this for the summit. And we're still live streaming too, by the way, folks, just so you know. Because this is like the live version of what we're going to be doing when we meet again, the way we've been talking. So in the top right corner, in that you know, not menu bar, but over to the far right where you see the little Twitter bird, and then there's going to be a Google site, like purpley. I'm not going to say blue because it looks purple to me, and I don't like to say blue in this month. It's like a purple square with a few white chunks in it. So that's the Google site sign. If you click that, that is actually the website for the 9. And I guess it's on a laptop, I can see it. And that has basically, so anybody can see this, but if you just go to my link tree, I'm pretty sure it's there. So like, I'm trying to do that more and more. And you know, we should all be doing that. And I don't say that in a hierarchical kind of way. But for those of us that are working in advocacy, and you know, not all of us are pursuing our master's and doctorate, because many of us are juggling very busy lives, very busy careers, and you know, going back to school is good. Like, even if people could intellectually go back and do it super quickly and easily, it's still financially and also the time. So, yeah. Right, you know what I mean?
May I just put in, Karen?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the link to donate to a special shout out here.
Oh, yeah.
A personal and national matter to Autistics Unmasked.
Yeah.
And Kai, who is here, that Autistics Unmasked are raising funds for the charity status and to get more funded through. So if anybody has any resources whatsoever to help Kai and the whole amazing team at AU going forward, and we really appreciate that at the 9 as well, that it, you know, continuing that grassroots movement. And so I've pinned the link there because charities and international organisations, I just wanted to give a special shout out to EU and the spaces that take place weekly. And there will be the educational program implemented coming up soon. But to support Autistic with the charitable status, it would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you so much, Maddie. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's my absolute pleasure, honestly.
It's, you know, it's so ironic that you have to, in order to become a voluntary organization, a nonprofit, both here and in the States, you've got to jump through some ridiculous hoops. And I know they want you to be accountable for any money that is raised and what have you, but I mean, the fact that it costs you money to do it. You have to prove that you can do it, and then you got to pay to prove, right? Like, it just makes no sense.
Well, fully autistic led, fully neurodivergent
Yeah,
led,
yeah.
and separate voices
Yeah.
and things. We really appreciate everybody here who can talk to those in institutions that have that financial capability. It is crucial. It is essential.
Yeah.
And we will continue to support that in terms of privilege and not just being tokenistic. So it's vital, and that's yeah. Exactly like you said, it's kind of these disconnects of the autism acceptance month, but it's beyond that. It's a way of life. It's a way of being. And yeah, I'm very passionate about that. I know we all are. And it's sharing that out and creating, going back to humanitarian values, no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah.
That is the joy. That is the autistic joy for me. That's what brings that pleasure and that love. So yeah. Anyway, I'll write down.
No, that's good. And sorry, Real Green Horse, thank you for being so patient while I went on my little whatever we want to call that.
I love the green horse. I love the green horse.
What you said was good for Jeff, but I was gonna try to connect Jeff with Kai, honestly.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
It sounds very much like they would be able to work together.
Yep.
And
exactly.
I've seen Jeff in a couple of other Twitter spaces, so we have a small history, a short history, and
that's awesome.
I was gonna send this in a DM to Kai, but she's here, or they're here. Sorry, and I appreciate you, I really do, and I was gonna reach out to my stepfather, who is a retired consultant. Yeah, that's had a little bit of mutism there. Sorry, but yeah, he was like in charge of some fundraising projects for some small corporations like Hershey and a few others. So I was going to reach out to him. He's been going through some health stuff, but he probably knows people who might be interested in getting you guys up and running, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. And I love you.
Thank you. I love you so much. That really means a lot. Yeah, I will. If I can, just real quick, give you guys kind of like an update on what is happening with AU as far as our nonprofit status. So I took my birthday money, and we got some donations from people at AU. Who we all kind of pulled together. Oh, hold on, let me mute myself because right here's my daughter in the background. Okay, you're playing drums. You're such a good drummer. We kind of pulled our money together, and we were able to self-fund to get to apply for the nonprofit status. It's about $275.
Yeah.
But now we're raising funds to kind of pay ourselves back, so to speak, in addition to really get started on trying to, raise the funds to be able to start paying our team until we get our official nonprofit status. Anything that's donated to us is not tax exempt, and we can't apply for any sort of like grants that they have out there or anything like that. So really, these donations are so essential for us to be able to continue doing our work and make sure that our team, our research team, our education team, and social media team are Lord knows they are putting in so much work, and it's entirely volunteer. And if I could, I would pay out of my own pocket for everyone, but and I don't have that much money right now, so that's kind of where things are going. We will be having. You got a boo boo? You want to be doing a boo boo? Oh, it's yucky. Oh, what is that? What is that? Let's get you a light. What was I saying? Oh, on our website, we'll be having a running list of kind of where the funds are going so that people know exactly what it is they're donating to. We have nothing to hide. We're not out here trying to buy ourselves Teslas and Ferraris. We are just trying to make sure that our organization can continue functioning and doing the work that we so desperately need to be doing. So that's my little bit of piece. I appreciate Maddie and the Real Green Horse and Karen all giving us a little bit of a shout out there, because we definitely need some fun. So I really appreciate you guys and the support that you guys have been giving us, not just this week, but just in general since the startup of AU and you guys attending our spaces. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great to again be partnered with you and Jorn, and like just so much that we've it's like I said, it's been a really great immersive week, and I think we're so much further ahead after this week because we've had this immersive experience, right? Like and I'm not taking credit for that. I'm like, people have shown up. That's what makes the difference. When you show up and you keep reaching out and connecting to each other and welcome each other, and I think that has made such a difference in the active participation. It's only continued to grow. So there are so many groups out there that are trying to figure out things, and so many individuals. We want to like embrace them and welcome them in. And how I don't want to say cute, but it does feel kind of cute. How neat is it when we're out on social media and somebody will say, like, I just got word, like it's official, like I'm autistic or whatever. And what do we all do, right? We're all like putting like little silly pictures and gifts and stuff for them, because it is a celebratory thing, and it's our right to celebrate that, right? So not many others in the community are on that same page. They don't understand why on earth would you celebrate an affliction, is kind of the mentality, and that's what we have to move them away from. So I'm just so we're actually past the time when I wanted to kind of close up. Does anyone have any sort of last thoughts that they would like to contribute? Again, we've got our space at I think we're starting at 8 p.m. so that'll give me a chance to not go have a power nap, because that would be foolish, but at least go and pretend to be a parent and see my other half as well for half an hour. And the same for you. You guys need to all go take a little break if you're coming back in, because we want creative space at 8 p.m. It's celebratory, creative, autistic joy space. And I may not be too awfully active in that space tonight, Maddie, but we'll try to be there. Or did Maddie step out because he's doing his he stepped out. He's doing his live on location recordings. So okay, so thank you. Yeah, Real Green Horse, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to invite people to the next space. I think was going to be hosted by Maddie and co-hosted by myself. Mm-hmm. It's going to be some spoken word art.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think I may just listen, but that's okay. Maybe you'll all soothe me to sleep. That'll be my self-care for tonight. I'm looking forward to it though. And I want to highlight as well, so today's Saturday, tomorrow night it'll be the Autistic Unmasked space. And what's neat is that'll be the first time that many people will have been exposed to the Autistics Unmasked space on 8 p.m. And so you just never know, Kai, there might be a whole lot of new participants coming in because of connecting this week, right? Like lots of people have been kind of new to everything here, so it's really exciting. And any other last thoughts?
Is that 8 p.m. Eastern Standard?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Eastern Standard. Yep, absolutely. And I did just pin it to the top of as Maddie calls it, the Jumbotron.
Yes.
So that if you're familiar with our stations, and click the tweet and you'll be able to set a reminder. It'll send you like a reminder when we're live. You do it every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or daylight, whichever it is now.
I know.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's always a good group that comes in, and it's we always say how interesting it is that autistic spaces are so they just run so smoothly and so I hate to keep using the word organic, but they feel right. It's really interesting how it works out. So if you have not been to one of those spaces and you're new to spaces, and you've tried them out, like, check them out. They're really quite cool. Even if you're not a poetry person or spoken word person, it's interesting just to have the dialogue. And I just want to double check and see who's here, because I always like to make mention of my my friends in the nine. I know Jacqueline was here earlier, and I believe, yes, is still here. And Jacqueline, you don't have to say anything, but just a shout out to you as one of my valued teammates. And again, I consider you really one of the co-founders. We don't really operate that way, but you know, it's I said the other day, we, like, three of us, and I won't say the other name because I know she, you know, we haven't got her permission to use her name, but kind of, it all kind of happened at the same time, right? We ran into each other. It was like, okay, this, it has to be meant to be. There's a need for a neurodivergent network of educators, and look what we've got accomplished in the last little bit. And I think we should be very proud of what we've been able to put on this week, and certainly humbled and grateful to all of the groups, including Autistics Unmasked, including Aut Collab, including, you know, like a year ago, who would have thought we would have had Quinn opening up and Morenike speaking, and, you know, Jorn doing a final thing, and lighting up, you know, landmarks on the other side of the world. Like, it's like there's so many layers to this, and having so many such a variety of voices, you know, in this space. And well, there's always room for improvement, obviously, but I think everybody who's in this space, regardless of what your role was, you know, just thank you for what you've done to contribute to this. And the nice thing is, it's now there in our 9 and Intersectional Infinity Summit website for educational purposes. So send people to those sites, send people to Autistics Unmasked, send people to Aut Collab, you know, reach out to Sarah Bettin, who's doing this amazing mosaic project, which is essentially supposed to be like almost like a virtual, just picture like a virtual quilt of like a virtual Audi quilt. So just picture how fantastic that would be when we're trying to broaden the narrative of who it is that's autistic. And each of those virtual spaces can be whatever you want. And Aut Collab is putting that together. So, like, there is so much great stuff going on. The future is autistic, right? Right, Kai? I just noticed one more hand. Sleepy Audie. Oh, that's fitting. Okay, go ahead, Sleepy Audie.
I'm speaking from the team council, and I was ahead of you, and I'm just trying to confirm that it's 5 hours behind Tinky, right? In Eastern Standard Time.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm speaking from Japan, so you know, I'm confused. Yeah. You're technically 14 hours behind me.
Yes. Yes. Well, and we were just talking to Jorn, who's in Otteria. Am I saying it right? Otteria. I always say it wrong. It's terrible. I've been doing that for weeks. Yeah, the time zones are fascinating. So you're in Japan. You know, I did know that at one point, but I'd forgotten that. So thank you. That's great.
It's 7:50 a.m. here.
Oh my gosh. 7:50 Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just mind-boggling. I know, it's really cool, isn't it? Well, thank you. We're glad you're in this space. Yeah. No, absolutely. So then tomorrow night it'll be just an hour after this, so you can sleep. Okay. You can sleep in a little bit.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. That's true. Well, you know. But glad to have you in the space. That's fantastic. How are things over there in Japan? What's going on in Japan?
Regarding COVID-19 or?
No, that's old news. We know that, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? No, like, just in terms of, because that, I think it's actually, this is another neat reason why this space has been so cool, because we haven't had we haven't had voices from your part of the world. And so that's, to me, was a real, like, and I looked and so talk to us about, like, just, well, this is a continued conversation, obviously, but what's the feeling about, and what's the political piece and the schooling piece over there? Do that in like 1 minute or less, right? Like, way to go, Karen. But what's it like to be an autistic in Japan?
Okay, I don't know how to describe it enough, precisely, but
no, that's okay.
So my experience, well, I'm 35 years old, and my experience with autism has been a little, well, more than a little rough. I mean, school has been back there, but I do hear that changes are taking place.
Yeah.
And then there would be special classrooms for children with needs.
Right.
And so on. So I do see changes happening, but not so much from the political, lawmaking side.
Right.
That's a little sad, but yeah.
Yeah.
And being an adult with autism is also another challenge. To this day, I'll be open about myself, but to this day, I haven't had a proper job.
Yeah.
What bothers is that, what's harmful is that social, difficulties make it almost difficult to be a part of, organizations. Especially in the society where conformity is so much respected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll speak a lot more about this. Should anyone open up this space?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to.
No. That's
keep people, away.
Yeah. But that's a great idea, and so I've sent you a quick message as well, just to say great to have you here. And I think you'll be our unofficial contact in Japan. You'll be the correspondent in Japan for now.
I also have to be neglected, so
oh wow, yeah.
I could take, I could be a correspondent on that too.
Fantastic. Yeah. And all of that's what our summit has been all about. I don't know if you were able to catch any of the summit prior to the space, but it's
unfortunately not so much, but I'll push myself to the
yeah, check out the websites and stuff. That's why they're there. The resources are there, and that'll be but that to me is a big area for, assuming we were to do this next year. We want to access more parts of the world, and also more Indigenous voices too, because we were looking very hard to get Indigenous voices. We do have some from some parts of the world, but just we want more representation and not tokenistic, right? We just and it'll continue to take shape, but very exciting to be connected with you. Thank you for stepping into the space and introducing yourself. Fabulous. And let's.
Okay, next meeting.
Yes, I'm just trying to see. I think it's Marie. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Yes, go ahead, Marie.
Hi. I just want to thank Sleepy Art for sharing their experience. I don't know, because I'm from the Philippines, so represent.
Nice.
Well, I have questions because I'm a speech and language therapist, and before, when I was still practicing in the Philippines, I would have like students who are Japanese, so I don't know. It just reminded me, like I would like to ask you stuff that I wouldn't be able to contact whoever that is, but so it just spiked my interest. So I don't know. So if I don't know.
Well, you're gonna hop on a plane and you're gonna DM me, or certainly connect to, like, because we want to keep everybody connected, right? And it looks so I'm DMing you, welcome to the Philippines delegate, and I'm going to do the same to let's see, now that I can't even see where everybody is, I'm going to do the same to Sleepy Audie, who I already said hello to, but that way it reminds me where everybody's coming from. And I'm not trying to pressure you to be the delegate, we're just sort of joking around here, but at least this helps to remind us kind of where we have voices, because we know there's some significant concerns. I know Baljit was talking with somebody who's a doctor in India today, like that was really, really powerful. So we want to have kind of people all around the world. And another next step that to me makes good sense is like Karen Murayuki today was doing some amazing training based on the CRPD, and she does training on that, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, yes, I got it right. And so she is happy to coordinate something. Wouldn't it be neat to do a global group? Because to get that training, typically you have to be part of an established association of advocates who are trying to well, if you don't have this particular status, then you can't get it, but we could get it through Karen. Do you know what I mean? So there's so much that we can do. We just have to know who can do what, and then kind of move on it, right? So sorry, Sophia, I know you just messaged me, but I got so many things going on here. And Sophia's not in the space, but so let me fill you in on something that's going on. So we've got and then we're going to say goodnight. We have to, because I'm starting to just babble. So Maddie's over at the Millennium Bridge, and we've got Gold there, the Gold Bridge, and we've got he's got pictures we're gonna put on the website. And Sophia says that the Kelpies, which are these ginormous like horse heads, like mythical horse heads over in Scotland, they were not red, they were not gold, they were red, I think. Let me just see what she said. Hold on a second. Kelpies were red. I'm okay with red. Aren't you all okay with red? Red instead? But I think in different parts of the world, it maybe might feel a little bit different. I don't know. She was hoping for gold, but that's okay. That's okay. So I think, we could go on forever and ever in this space, but I think let me just do one more quick sweep of the room and check. Yeah, I want to go take a break. I think, if you can join us again in an hour, by all means do, but go take care of your proprioceptive needs, etc. And if you can't check back, no worries. Okay, like you be you. And again, thanks to all of the folks who have contributed in their own way, especially to my friend Jacqueline, who's still with us. And so great to have you here tonight, because I know you're not a huge Twitter Spaces person, so I really appreciate you joining in. All right, friends. Well, it's been real, and thank you for everything. I'm going to be closing off the live stream, and again, this is just for. I guess I better figure out where the live stream is gone, because it seems to have disappeared.